can hear me, but not too strong, right?
That's pretty good.
Okay, good. All right, well, thank you so much for coming today. It's just so great to see everyone in person. Even if it's half of you, it's still a treat. So thank you for being here. And I just wanted to say thanks to the museum for hosting this. My original show opened June 2020, so you can imagine I had about this many people at the opening over a period of 3 hours. So it's great to have another opportunity to explore this subject in this show, but also adding the museum insights and resources to it, and then to have Dagny and her storytelling is really a treat. So thanks for joining me today. So I'll just get into this, and this is a slideshow from the entire show, and so you'll see some pieces that are already sold, but I just wanted to give you an idea of the entire body of work, and then to see now how we can wrap that in with what the TRED does so well in preserving and talking about our heritage. So Katie's going to be turning the page for me. So I started out in February. Why would I do February? I'm going to paint outside. It was just as cold as it looks, I'll tell you that. But I really wanted to do a once a month painting project. It really helps me delve into a sense of space, a sense of place as I see it change month to month. And it's a great commitment for me as an artist to say, I don't care what I have going or what the weather's doing, I'm going out once a month, done. And it's really nice too, because I know where I'm going instead of wandering around the valley, which I also do sometimes. But it was just, I'm going to Perry-Mansfield, I'm going to just see what it's doing. And the concept of the entire show was really to get to know this source of inspiration that every artist feels when they go to Perry-Mansfield. Every time you talk to the performing artists, their very favorite thing of being there was being connected to the nature out there. And yet we're only seeing it in June, July, August as artists. So I really wanted to see, well, what is it like the rest of the year? Because that nature keeps going throughout the year, and just to get a better feel for it. So that was my intent. And so February, as you can see, and some of the originals are here still in the room, but some of them are gone, yeah. They're all 8x10s. And then March, and Tony works at the front desk, and I told her I was going to go paint, and she's like, you are? Because it's really the guts of the season, which is mud season. And my boots were like this deep in mud back there in those back roads. But again, I just got this great feel for camp, being out there and seeing the snow going from this high down. And it was a great snow year. And again, a testament to these really old buildings of holding this snow for this long.
You can't see it.
Oh.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for telling me. Thank you. So yeah, I was just amazed at the strength of these 100-year-old buildings to hold that much snow. And then in April, and I thought, oh, I'll go paint spring. Oh yeah, it's still mud season, so it snowed. And that's where I got to really appreciate the Louis Horst studio. Oh, thank you.
It's the big one.
Yeah, that's much better.
There we go. Good, thank you very much. The Louis Horst with the covered porch really came in handy that day that it was snowing, and I still wanted to paint. And really, I appreciated the silence and the stillness. And then the most magical thing happened. I started noticing the blackbirds, the red-winged blackbirds. It was my only companion that day. It was so quiet out at camp, and yet they were flitting around so excited to be back in the valley. You know, so I really could appreciate that feeling. And so what I do in my work is I take almost color notes when I'm out there, and I took color notes of what is this beautiful red? What does it look like when it's in shadow? What does it look like when it has a little bit of light or reflected light on it? What are the colors of that day? And then with those color notes, then I actually did some studio pieces, which I'll show you in a minute. So you can just take one more slide there, Katie. Just a beautiful picture of Louis Horst, of course, summer. And I think this is one of the artist's favorite thing to do is dance in Louis Horst, because it's like you're dancing outside with the aspen trees. Go ahead. So these are the 3 studio pieces. So this is my field to studio process where I have the notes, and then I bring it in and I use more imagination. I use some photographs.
Thanks. You got confused.
Oh, okay. Thank you. And I don't know if you've ever been out there, but this really cool piano that the kids have painted probably about 100 times. And it's really like that. It has all these colors on it. And I could just picture the birds coming on in. Come on in. Those birds coming and saying, yes, let's do some singing. Right? And then the other 2 that I did. Call is one of the few smaller original ones that I still have as an original available. And I just pictured them like announcing the show, you know? So it's just fun to kind of bond with those birds that day. Go ahead, Kate. Right, so this is Julie Harris, and I know that there's a lot more to say about the Julie Harris Theater than I have for today, but Rob Schwartz is here in the back. Thank you, Rob, for being here. And he's heading up a renovation of this amazing, historic, very interesting architecturally building into a 12-month performing space, which is going to take a lot of work. So this piece is actually on raffle. It's right here, and if you take your cell phone and take a picture of this, it should automatically open a page where you can sign up for the raffle, and it's $20, and all the money will go towards this renovation. Because again, this is just quintessential Perry-Mansfield, especially with all the dandelions in May. So that was really probably one of my favorite days, just because it was finally open, but it was still quiet. I didn't feel like I was intruding on anything. It was still all to myself for one more day. Okay, go ahead. And here they are, the group that did that building. And I'm sure that Danny might have more to say about Julie Harris, but again, you could ask Rob too about that project. And then there's the equine, which is something that I think is amazing to add to all of this. It's really honoring the Western heritage of the place where we are. And so I have this really great picture from their 3-day trip that they took out, and Danny might have more information on that too. But it was one reason why I wanted to paint out at Perry-Mansfield was the horses too. I mean, what an artist's paradise in terms of subject matter. So here's the horses there that June evening, and they were out just enjoying the field and the sun going down. And then as I turned and saw then the sun setting, and you can do the next slide. Oh, whoops, sorry, one more fun one. And I was walking away, and I looked back one more time, and then I saw this scene. I'm like, oh my gosh, why didn't I paint that? And that's just how it goes when you're painting. You never know what it is you're going to be capturing or missing, but luckily I took a photograph of it, and it's one of my favorite images, just in terms of the feeling of early summer in Strawberry Park is just the best.
Do you want this one?
Oh no, yeah, that's okay. I won't go into the history too much today. And then I kept going into the heart of camp, and they had a show going at Main Studio. And so here's some lights. I love those lights leading you into the magical performance you're about to see, and the sunset. But for me, the best part of this painting is remembering all the kids who are flowing by me because they were going to see the show. And they're just the best kids. I mean, they were so excited about what I was doing. They wanted to talk to me about art. They wanted to talk about painting and maybe just what I was looking at. I mean, they are just so engaged. Being there in the summer, it was a flurry, but it was such a treat to talk to those kids as I painted. That reminds me of that. And there they are, they're the kids. Really the heart of it. And so here I am, this is the same exact creek as I did in February, and here it is in July. So again, kind of focusing on how is this same place in a lot of different times of year, and really getting to know it and study it in that way. So again, July, I can just picture all the kids who are walking by me as I'm painting this, and taking a lot of color notes. I really love all these old buildings with the patina on there, and then all the flowers that go along with them. And so to me, this is more of a color note painting, of trying to get some of these notes and things that cameras don't get very well. And then you can see in the next slides what I did with that study and my photos. Then I turned it into all about the hollyhocks, because they are the most beautiful out there in the summer. And so yeah, the one on the right is still here. It's available up there. And then I thought, well, why do this small when I could do this huge? So this painting is 3 feet by 4 feet tall, or 4 feet long, 3 feet tall. And I realized really what I needed to do in the show is just really celebrate the femininity of camp, because it was founded by women, it was run by women, it's encouraged women throughout history, and it's pretty amazing in that way. Being a woman artist, I know how important it is to support each other, and so I just thought, yeah, we need to talk about women in at least one of my paintings. So that's this one, and that one will be arriving here. It will be on display towards the end of September. So it just has another home right now, but it'll be here soon. And there are the women, Charlotte and Portia. And then this was really cool. So this is August now, and things are still happening. And you always feel like you're trying to catch lightning bugs when you're out there, because there's so much brilliance, but you know it's going to be gone really soon. So I talked to Chris Compton, he was the director of the dance out there, and I said, would it be at all possible, could I maybe paint you guys while you're dancing? He's like, oh, of course, come on in. I'm like, awesome. So he invited me to be on the balcony and look down on the dancers and paint while they're dancing. And I have to say, this was hilarious, because it showed me the power of music and your brain. It started as a classical music ballet piece that they were working on. I'm like, all right, cool, I can do this. Got them all organized, they're all nicely spaced, like no problem, I can paint them even though they're moving. And then the next piece that they were rehearsing was total modern dance. And my brain just like melted on the floor. I'm like, I don't even know what to do anymore. Like, I just kind of like wrapped up some of the stuff I could control and like left it like that, because it just was a completely different painting when they started doing a different dance. It was amazing. Yeah, so that's the study that I did, and it really, again, it got lots of color notes, not much detail in the figures. And then as you go on, sometimes I do like color studies using different palettes in my studio. So I'll use a certain kind of blue and a red and combinations and say, does this get that color, or does this get that mood that I wanted? So I did 2 different ones using 2 different color palettes until I came upon, I think it was probably maybe this one. And then if you want to go ahead, and then I did the finished piece using the photographs I took, luckily, while they were dancing. And this is just a neat aside, but my cousin is a dancer. She's a professional dancer, and she came to Perry-Mansfield as a 15-year-old. And it was really cool because I could show her the pictures that I took that day, and I could say, okay, what is this ballet thing that they're doing? What are they? And then she told me the move and said, oh yeah, and that's this and that, and then I could look it up online and get even a better picture of what the body should be doing during this rehearsal. And it all kind of came together. So again, a really neat sort of laying over of all the different disciplines of art. I just love that because Ashley Williams grew up here in town with us. And then this piece here, another really cool overlay of the different disciplines, because this is a piece that was visualized by Dante Puello. So he's the He's a director of dance. I'm not exactly sure his title out there at Perry-Mansfield, or choreography. So he really is the artist behind this piece. I just painted what he came up with. And Perry-Mansfield, Tony and Dante were very gracious in just letting me use the photograph of their performance. So that's how I kind of came upon this. And the charcoal drawing that I do, sometimes I need to do like a value study, and the charcoal drawing of that piece is over there in case you want to go see that afterwards. But the study is right over there on paper.
Why did you do the gold and why?
The gold.
It's amazing.
Right, and the gold there. Yeah, I have this, it's just called gold gesso, and so it's a ground. It's the first thing you put on the canvas, and then you paint on top of it. And it's almost like watercolor where you have to be careful not to paint over the entire thing, but to leave a little bit of gold to come through.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's amazing.
yeah, thank you. And there they are, dancing in the woods, still and always. And then this is again August and the office, and just seeing what a hub that was, and the experiences that the kids had going to the office, because that's where you check your mail. So I took a lot of color notes on that. And then the next slide, Katie, you can see how I developed a more finished painting. Again, more about the camp experience. This could be any summer camp. Looking for letters from home, or not. The poor girl on the right, I think, might have gotten left out. And just the camaraderie that people experience at camp, oh, what an amazing experience. And this is September, so then all of a sudden, all activity just fell to the ground, just like the leaves, right? And it was amazingly gorgeous. I could hardly pick a place to paint. I mean, everything. I could have done about 20 paintings that day. But I ended up painting this little house. There's actually like a wood stove in there, and people stay in there, but one of my favorite pieces. And then October, we got an early snow. Not surprising. And in November, so again, a totally different feel of Louis Horst, where usually it's this summer celebration, dancing out in the aspen trees with the fluttering leaves, and instead you see this beautiful grasses that are all dried, and the sun glinting off the top of them, and then this beautiful red building behind. It was just a totally different feel of Perry-Mansfield than what I have usually seen. And winter. So winter, yeah, and I think that Danny might be talking about what they did in winter. And this is a studio piece that I did just because I wanted to explore that image more. And then this is in December. It was just a few days after Christmas, and there's Tony and Naomi working really hard in there, and they're in the heart of camp, really, at the office. Mm-hmm. And then January, so this made it the whole year. So that's the 12 months. It was snowing so hard, but I think it was the last day of January, so I knew I had to go. And I had an umbrella. I was like a little duck out there. And I looked behind, and there was like an inch of snow on my paints. I mean, it came down so fast and so hard. But again, it's a neat opportunity to paint snow. I mean, you don't really, usually I would shy away from this, but having this commitment of going every month no matter what kind of forced me to get out there and paint during this weather. So I think that might be it, Katie. Oh, I love that. Yeah. So I'm going to let Danny take over, and then I think we'll do questions afterwards. Here you go. And this is Dagny McKinley. Sorry I didn't introduce you.
Hi, my name is Dagny McKinley, so I'm an author in town and a historian. And I want to talk, usually I talk about the history of Perry-Mansfield, which is just kind of that straight history, but because of Chula's painting, I want to talk more about that connection to nature that the ladies had. And so I'm going to break it up kind of seasonally, just like Chula did with her work, and look at kind of the different chapters of Perry-Mansfield. So we'll start with spring. For Charlotte and Portia, the two founders of Perry-Mansfield, they had a huge, Isadora Duncan was a huge inspiration for them. She was a modern dancer. She used to dance barefoot and naked, never really found her home in the United States, but was embraced widely in Europe. And one of her quotes really sums up this, what caused the women to do what they do. And it says, "O woman, come before us, before our eyes longing for beauty and tired of the ugliness of this civilization, come in simple tunics. Let us see the line and harmony of the body beneath and dance for us. Dance us the sweetness of life and its meaning. Dance for us the movements of birds, the waters, waving trees, floating clouds. Dance for us the holiness and beauty of the woman's body." And so this really was what they were trying to express, right? Is how humanity fits within nature and how you can move your body to mimic the world around you and become part of that broader sense of who we are as human beings. Charlotte and Portia met at Smith College. Charlotte had come from Denver. Portia had traveled around a lot with her father, who owned various hotels. And when Charlotte went to Smith College, one of her memories recalls, "It was so different from the West. Charlotte loved everything that brought her in touch with the sights and smells and shapes of the natural things. She seemed to have a sixth sense, like animals, and smelled and breathed and reacted to everything out of doors. If you had seen her at this time, you might have thought she was a person who had gone to college to take a course in New England, but had dropped into a classroom as a secondary interest." So this was kind of the beginning. At Smith College, Charlotte and Portia met. They went on a famous bear hunt where Charlotte captured and killed a bear. It was the last one she ever caught because it broke her heart to do that. But during that trip, the two women conceived of this camp in the great out of doors, away from the heat of the cities, where they would combine dance, theater, art, and the outdoors. So Chula mentioned the Equestrian Program. That was a huge part of what camp was taking these people who had never been to the West, putting them on a horse, and taking them into the backcountry for 3 days or more. Marjorie Perry, Charlotte's sister, often led these trips. And her philosophy was if a kid cried and wanted to go home, she'd tell him, "See that creek? Follow it downhill and you'll probably come to a town somewhere." So it was a very, very tough love kind of a camp. The two women, in order to raise money, because that was always the issue, right? They wanted this to be a center for the arts, but usually artists didn't have a lot of money. So how do you then get the money into camp? And so they tried all sorts of various things. They had kids camps. They had an adult camp where people like the Rockefellers would come to stay at camp and do what the kids did, go to the great out of doors and ride and create. But during that time, they also got connected with vaudeville, and they toured frequently on the vaudeville circuit, using all of that money to come back to camp and build the buildings that we still have today. And when they started camp, it was again about that connection to nature. So their very first brochure read, "It is to be deep in the heart of the Rocky Mountains, where the rushing streams flow straight from the snowy peaks of the Great Divide, where the winds blow fresh through the forest of dense pine and spruce. Here life is free, simple, and sweet. For perfect expression in dancing, music, or any creative art, freedom of the body and of the spirit is necessary. Life in the great silence of the stern white peaks is healthful and free. It recreates the body and mind in simplicity and beauty." And so at camp, you didn't just show up and dance and have fun. They also put you to work. So campers were taught how to split wood. During the war years, they were taught how to irrigate the lands, how to build fences, how to garden. And so there was always a part of work that was associated with creativity and art. That vaudeville year, some of their memories, it's really interesting because years later they're interviewed and they have these brief memories of the beauty of the natural world around them. And so going on one tour one day, they say, "They started in the dark across the lake where the dawn was coming in red streaks between black clouds." I mean, think about that memory of how the clouds looked in the midst of going from place to place to place. The lake reached long fingers into the hills, and on one they saw small white houses marching up to surround a church choir, a little town with an angelic name where they were to give a concert. So this part of being in